Good morning or good afternoon. Charlie McQueen, thank you for joining us. Depending what side of the country, it's good morning or good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today to talk about charitable donation accounts. Super excited to have a great conversation today. Again, I am Charlie McQueen. I'm our moderator today. I've got a couple wonderful people joining me, but really excited. We have our three great areas of expertise, our valuation team, our interest rate risk management ALM team, and then our investment team. And today I'm have a couple co-presenters, couple presenters. I get to be just the leader of the group today. It's exciting. We've Craig Cecilia here. Craig, thank you for joining us. Craig is our Chief Investment Officer and Managing Director here.
Hey, good afternoon. Good morning to everybody.
Yep. Craig oversees all of our investment activities, including our charitable donation accounts, employee benefit pre-funding accounts, investment portfolio management for our bank and credit union clients, and also other entities, foundations, and different activities that we also manage money for those of you who didn't know that. But today, along with Craig here, who has great experience, we have a really unique individual. I'm super excited to have Dave Brandt here with us also. Dave is the EVP of Elga Credit Union, wonderful accounting background, knowledgeable. He's got much shorter hair in this picture. Dave, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Charlie. Appreciate having the opportunity.
Yeah, Dave's here for a lot of reasons, great knowledge and expertise, but also he's implemented a CDA portfolio and foundation, and we're going to talk about that here in a little bit, which is really, really exciting to me to have someone here that has some real life experience from the user aspect of it and some of the things that's really been able to help his community. So again, thank you, Dave. Thank you, Craig. Really appreciate having the two of you here with me. All right, go through the all-important administrative stuff today. Today's webinar is going to be a pretty quick one. I expect about a half hour or so, 40-minute webinar today. And if you have questions along the way, please feel free. You can navigate around and find the Q&A button. Usually it's on the top across your screen. And type your question in there, and we will answer them along the way or at the end, whichever is most appropriate for your question. Today's webinar, as usual, is being recorded, and it will be included on our YouTube site. And if you'd like to see it or share it with anyone in your organization, please feel free to go there and get it. Also, your McQueen Financial advisor will have copies of this and able to send it to you also, and they are very versed in this. So if you do have questions, you can also ask your advisor, and they'll be able to share great insight with you. So with that, today we're going to talk about charitable donation accounts, opportunities to make more money, some things that we're seeing and doing. We're going to talk about foundations. We're going to talk about real life activities. When's a good time to get in, and some thoughts about why not waiting any longer. So without further ado, we're going to jump right in, and we're just going to hit right into charitable donation accounts today. And sometimes the best way to start with a topic is really to define it. And the NCUA a number of years ago decided that they were going to allow credit unions to invest money in things that are not standard. They're things that we're not normally able to invest in, and irrepermissible investments was the term we've used in the past, but non-standard investments. And we're allowed to do that so we can get more of a market-based return, and then use that money to invest into our communities. We're able to donate to charities. It started off slow. Not a lot of people got into this and started using it. But one thing we've seen happen is it's really picked up speed, and more people are starting to use it. And what's exciting to me today, we have about 15% of all credit unions in the country now using it. And we're seeing that there's programs for everyone. We have people with very small portfolios to very large portfolios, and we have clients anywhere from $12 million to $18 billion that are currently using charitable donation accounts. I always like to argue, why wouldn't you have one? Because it's a great way to give to your community and give back to your membership, and really to do the right things. And there's ways to make it so it's actually pain-free, no cost for giving. So we're really excited about that. So one of the things I'd like to start off and ask here is what is your social mission? What is your social mission? How do you define your social mission? How do you give on your social mission? And are you focused on it? And that becomes a really interesting story. And what I get excited about is to talk a little bit how some of our clients have made some big differences in their communities. And to me, really is taking that step back. And it's easy to talk about this around the holidays, Christmas, and the time of year, but this is really something that comes out a lot in cold months. We hear bad stories about people struggling to pay heat bills and different things in the cold months. And this is a way for you to define your mission and really implement your social mission very, very carefully. And before we hop over to a quick conversation with Dave and Elga's social mission, I did want to share just a little story that we've shared with a number of you already, but still is just amazing. We did have a client who reached out to us about a year ago and wanted to learn about how to do a CDA account and how to give back to their community. And our team worked really hard with them. We put together a program, funded an investment portfolio, and we're managing the investment portfolio to reach their goals. One of the things Craig's going to touch on later is different types of portfolios and risks and returns of different portfolios. But the key part is starting with your social mission, understanding what your desires are. And what we did with this client is we figured out their social mission, and their desire was to give in two ways. One was to early work with a bunch of their people in their community that couldn't afford Christmas. And they bought gifts and funded and took care of a whole bunch of people in their community. And we gave 165 local families food and gifts and helped them have a really good Christmas. And they thought that's a great thing. We're helping these people at this one time of year, but what we want to do also is create enough revenue so we can affect our community in a bigger way. And so their portfolio was created to provide immediate income, to provide for this need for these families. But there was a second motive that they had, which was to provide a gift of $50,000 a year that they pledged for a number of years to open up a YMCA in their community. And so really exciting for us to see them be able to achieve both of their goals, to give this one-time gift for a year end for Christmas, but the other one was this long-lasting, sustaining gift. And so really exciting to me to see this client achieve their mission. That's the first year. We're working hard with them to continue to achieve their mission for many years forward. But from here, what I want to do is really take the story and bring it a little bit closer to home. Now, those of you who don't know, Elga Credit Union is located north of us here in our Clawson office in Michigan. Elga effectively is in Flint, Michigan. They're a little bit south in some communities also. Flint, Michigan, it's a lot of things in the headlines for lead pipes and water and some pretty tough poverty. And out-migration is one of the problems that Flint has. And so there's a lot of need in the community. And so what I'd like to do here is I'm going to pause sharing my screen and ask Dave to give us a little bit of information and talk a little bit about what is your social mission at Elga Credit Union, Dave?
At Elga, we really see ourselves as part of the community we serve. We want to make sure that not only are we doing well, but we're doing well as a result of the good deeds we do in the community. It's a very unique effort in that not only do we want to do something that benefits the community, but we want to do. So many places are really good at writing the big check. And we have some of those giant poster board checks and we hand those out from periods time to time. But we're boots on the ground and really working hard to make sure that we're providing a benefit. I think one of the greatest things we do every year is the Flint Diaper Drive. We do that in conjunction with ABC 12. And, I had a small child and I remember the pain of like, oh no, I was supposed to pick up diapers on the way home. But I can't imagine the pain of, oh no, I can't afford to pick up diapers on the way home. What are we going to do for the next dirty diaper tonight? Kids can blow those things up. Scraping and reusing does not sound like fun.
I love that.
So we're really good at the financial side of helping that low to moderate income family, but we really want to help on the non-financial side so they can be worried about less than the basics in life. Just worry about getting yourself ahead, not trying to figure out a way to put a diaper on your child.
It's amazing the diaper drive and simple things like that can really make a difference in people's lives. And having that as a strategy to help people with basic needs in your community is truly amazing. So, Dave, your social mission is to help people in your community. Have you defined it any more specifically in that, or is it a general statement that you guys have?
It's somewhat of a general statement, but through our foundation, we've really kind of looked at three pillars of how does that development into the community look. So we look very much at charitable giving. We look at financial education, and we're working to help small businesses start, thrive, and grow. So the charitable giving, we try to be very focused, and writing a check $500 20,000 times a year doesn't do as much good as really bringing to light some individual activities. We're very involved with Hurley Hospital. Hurley Hospital is, among other things, our local Children's Miracle Network hospital. I know credit union world that's a very important thing, and we work very hard to take that to the next level. Last week we had folks spending days at the hospital, and they were putting together the first bags. So every baby coming home from the hospital receives a bag full of different necessities for your first nights at home. We have volunteers that go into the NICU, and their entire volunteer job is they cuddle babies, so that while your child's recovering from whatever in the NICU, you can be able to go home and get some sleep and know that someone's caring about your baby. So we're very focused in that area. The toy drive every year, Stuff a Blue Goose. So for those of you that are outside of Michigan, a blue goose in our world is a state police patrol vehicle. So years ago, the partnership with the Michigan State Police became tagged as Stuff a Blue Goose, and we work really hard to put toys together. The neat thing about that fundraiser is that we don't simply drop off, here's a box full of toys, that's what you're giving your child for Christmas this year. They set up through the Salvation Army a store where these folks can actually come through and pick out, this is what my daughter or my son would like to open on Christmas Day. So no charge to them, but it's an appropriate and aligned gift with what their kids like.
That's just really amazing, Dave, thinking about that, and thinking about the go home, take home bags. I don't want to forget that statement. That's something extremely important, especially in a community that's income-wise is really struggling and may not know what to bring home or have the information on what to bring home. So that's just amazing, and all the different things. Have you seen what kind of impact have you seen from the community or to the community by the things you've been doing?
So our impact grows every year. One of the things that Craig helped us out a lot on the CDA side. We donated $280,000 from our CDA revenue into our foundation, and that can go a long way in the community. One of the things that we most benefit for is people like to do, if they notice you doing good in the community, they like to come alongside. So we gain business not only for the credit union, but we gain participation in our foundation, and being confident that the money I give to a foundation is going to a good cause and being used by someone I trust to do great things in the community really helps amplify our efforts.
Yeah, that's really amazing. When you start, and we're going to talk a bunch about your foundation in a minute, which I'm super excited about that. But that's one of the neat things is once you start and you work with when people hop on board and giving can be amplified. And we a lot of times will call it the gifting cleanup. Instead of giving $20 to everyone that walks the door, it's giving $20,000 to one activity, and even being involved in that activity to make sure that the dollars are going to the end user, to the outcome, and not the process, which sometimes you hear a lot about charities where the process eats up the dollars. And so this is really exciting. Dave, I've got to think of this from a financial standpoint, and we'll talk about the impact financially to the credit union. But by doing this and doing the right thing, we do it because it's the right thing to do. I know you guys honestly feel that way, and you're giving money to these organizations. You're providing everyone with the what to take home after having a baby, all the right things in the diapers. But there's also, when you do the right thing, you tend to get a reward back in ways you don't expect. And have you seen a positive impact to Elga Credit Union besides improving your members' lives and doing the right thing in the community? But have you seen any any activities there, such as deposit growth, that have related from this?
I think it's one of the most recent and most amazing things that has come out of this. So the University of Michigan this year reached out in Flint, Dearborn, and Ann Arbor and wanted to know where they could deposit some funds where it might be able to make a difference in those communities. And they came into the community here in Flint and asked essentially our Chamber of Commerce if we wanted to deposit funds in a financial institution here that would do good things with it, and not the principal, just the access to the funds. Where would you suggest we go with that? And we were the name that was given to the University of Michigan. So sat down and chatted with some representatives there, and we now have a multi-million-dollar deposit coming our way at a fair rate that we'll be able to leverage and do great things in our community. When we do great things in the community, I never imagined the University of Michigan would come and give us millions of dollars. But those kind of things, again, because we do good and others want to do well, we get to partner up and benefit along there.
That's just really incredible, Dave. And just, you don't do it to get the deposit, but when you do good things, things come back. One thing I was talking with someone the other day was, a lot of times people get involved with charities. Again, you care, but then there's this other thing that happens. When you give and have foundations, there's just this free advertising that tends to come from it. I mean, you become published on the newspapers and certain things. Have you seen that activity also?
Yeah, absolutely. The cutest recent example that I know you'll love, we raised $3,000 this past fall through an activity called Cut Dave's Due. And that was on the local TV. It was in the local newspaper. My hair got appreciably shorter in that day.
I love it.
It was a fun event. But over and above that, we have annual sponsorships that we participate. The diaper drive is a joint effort between ourselves and the local ABC station, ABC 12. So essentially every dollar of advertising that goes into that, every market spend into it, is matched by ABC 12. I don't think they call it a match. I think it's a reduction in rate, but it works out that way. We get twice as much bang for our buck in that. And you're right, when you do well, things become traded and shared on social media. People talk about you a lot, and the news story that you would have had to pay to have placed in the newspaper. I didn't realize that was a thing, but you call somebody and say, "Hey, we've got such and such going on." They'll say, "Well, for $2,000, we'll send a photographer out." We tend to be able to do those things for free.
Yeah, it's interesting. You see those paid stories all the time, a lot of newspapers where it says paid advertisement or paid story, but it's never authentic. And by just doing the right thing and then partnering, especially when you can partner with a TV station to help a local community, that's truly amazing. One of the things I've been told is that you're then top of mind for a lot of people, and we used to joke, why does IBM sponsor a golf tournament? Well, so when you think of them, or why does a mortgage company sponsor a golf tournament? So you think of them, and therefore you get the services. And so by you doing these things, I have to believe you've also had some pretty good membership growth that's resulted by these activities. Would that be the case?
Absolutely. It's one of the things we track is why ELGA, and a lot of times why ELGA is because what we represent in the community, in the business community as well. We'll get to look at loans that perhaps weren't something that we would have ever seen before because they're a customer of Huntington or Fifth Third or some other large money center bank, but they see what we're doing in the community and compared to their current relationships and look to bring us some business that way.
Yeah, you'd much rather work with someone who cares about your community than not. And you definitely represent a number of different communities, but you do have some communities that have a lot of need, and that really goes a long way. So I'm really thrilled to hear about that, Dave. Now, one of the things you mentioned a few minutes ago, besides setting up a CDA, and that Craig does an amazing job, his team managing it, which is, I appreciate you saying that. But you've made a lot of money there and be able to give it away. But you also have created a foundation, and a lot of the money the CDA makes goes to the foundation. And can you talk a little bit about when did you create the foundation? Why did you create the foundation? And help us understand that a little better.
Sure. We originally created the foundation in 2019. It took probably a better part of 18 months to actually be done creating it. And then we learned some things along the way still that we hadn't quite figured out. I think the state of Michigan's solicitation license, even when you're a foundation, there is no shortage of government desire to obtain a fee, a license, something to hang on your wall. And the irony is, today we're here talking about CDAs. One of the original focuses for setting up the foundation was so that through our different events, we would be able to take in tax deductible donations. So we were setting up a 501c3 so that when you saw the diaper drive, you could text $10 in. And the company that we were going to use for the text solicitation would only work with 501c3s. We thought, well, we ought to be a 501c3. So away we went. Turns out that it's pretty beneficial in the CDA world as well, because that is one of the requirements, is those funds be donated to a 501c3, and our foundation now qualifies.
That's really, it's something important out there for everyone to understand. When you are giving money away from your CDA, it does have to go to a 501c3 charity. So that takes out sometimes some areas, but it also, to me, we talked about this gifting cleanup a while before at different webinars, and instead of giving $5 to everyone, you can really focus on some direct needs. And that sometimes can be tough, but when you have your needs, your organization, your foundation, what ends up happening is you can get people to donate in, and that's really exciting. As you mentioned earlier, Dave, you now have other people donating to your foundation?
Absolutely. We just opened a new headquarters building last year, and very prominently featured in our lobby area is a wall measuring our donors. Something like you might see at a hospital, where it shows folks who have donated and helped endow our foundation so that we can continue doing good for forever, in theory.
That's just really neat. How long ago did you create the foundation?
It started in 2019. Really got way under earnest probably 2020, late 2020, early 21.
Wonderful. And was it difficult to set up the foundation?
I'm not going to say difficult, definitely time consuming. There are points in there where you submit a form and then you grow older and you get the form back. And different steps that, waiting for the IRS to issue you a tax ID number, and incorporating with the state or whatever jurisdiction requires it in where you plan to operate. Getting the solicitation license, that was actually easy, but can't say we actually knew we needed one of those. One of the benefits, I was on another foundation board and they were making mention of having to renew their solicitation license. I jotted a quick note and said, no, we'll probably check and see about that. The other thing I think took quite some time is very much bright lining the difference between foundation and credit union. It becomes very easy to have a foundation that's doing the same thing as the credit union and not keeping those entities legally separate. I think we have one of the only very large semi-tractor trailer stages, and that is an asset owned by our foundation. Our foundation rents and or donates that out into the community, and our credit union has purchased a 5-year license to marketing for that, so it's wrapped up in all of our logos and everything. I'm kind of still a risk-adverse accountant, except in certain ways. And one of the things that worried me was this thing had giant doors that open hydraulically, and it was going to be out at a fair, and I could look across the fairgrounds and see the beer tent on the other end. And I didn't necessarily want someone to crack their head on the side of our stage and then decide the credit union had deep pockets. But all things we do in the foundation are in the foundation.
That's really, I'm envisioning the beer tents and the stage and a good band. So it's almost summer here as we get through mid-February. That's so, Dave, I really appreciate that. Those are some great points of, some ideas. And one of the questions I'm going to ask you is, what tips would you give people that are setting up a foundation? But I think you hit that. It's really amazing. I mean, you guys are doing some incredible things, and the foundation gives you the capacity to bring the rest of the community in. Any other comments, Dave, you'd want to add on the foundations and importance of them or utilization of them before we move back onto some ways to fund the foundation?
I think the other thing is, just in case I didn't mention it, make sure you learn from others. There's a way to do all those things. We found in Michigan, there's a Council of Michigan Foundations. So essentially a foundation to support foundations. And they were very helpful. I would definitely recommend that because you can make a few mistakes and then spend a lot of time fixing it.
Thank you, Dave. That's really, really insightful. For everyone attending, we'll send out links and information, and you can reach out to your advisor. They'll send it to you so we can get that information in front of you. Well, Dave, you're not leaving. You're here to add comments and join us, but I really want to thank you. Really great to hear how you are helping your community, how you put a foundation together to bring more people together to help the community and really help your social mission succeed and your membership succeed. So thank you very much. I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Charlie. We appreciate being able to share the story.
All right. So one of the things that we get asked on a regular basis, and Craig, I want to talk a little bit, have you add a little bit here, and again, Dave, anything along the way, you're more than welcome to add in. What does it take to donate $100,000 to charity today? And we start off without a charitable donation account. If you want to give $100,000, the example here that we have is that effectively you need to invest $2.3 million in an investment. Say roughly it's yielding 4.5%. That means you end up with your $100,000 roughly. So it takes $2.3 million. Now, one of the neat things with the CDA is we can then invest in non-standard investments. And so we have an example here. How do we make $100,000 or how do we donate $100,000 with a charitable donation account? Well, if we have $1.3 million in assets, half of what we talked about on the previous screen, $1.3 million invested at 7.5%, that's going to earn $100,000 a year. And so by able to invest in non-standard investments, we're able to grow into different ways and to get different activities. Now, this is really cool, but there's also this process we call how do you give for free? And that's the one that really excites me because we don't want to hurt earnings today. But this example here, as we said, if we invest $3 million in assets earning 8%, I use round numbers to make the math easy on me. $3 million times 8% is $240,000. If you donate half of it, 51% is what we need to donate in Michigan, but we're going to go with half again for simple math for Charlie. Donate 51%, that's $120,000. And then we take the other half or 49%, we get to keep that. And so in the end, we can give $120,000 a year, but still earn 4% on that investment. And so it's really, really positive. And this is sometimes why I wonder why people don't do it, because it's such an easy way to give money and effectively have zero cost because of the different asset classes we can invest in. Now, for full transparency and clarity, there is more risk in other asset classes, but managing that risk and knowing that risk, you can really do well in this situation, but it is a different risk category than what we're investing in today. So with that, you can even give more. And one of the things I love is Dave, one of the things you guys give away some of the money you make, all the money you make, you can make that decision. But if you take that full $3 million in investments at 8%, you could give the whole amount away. Now you do have that opportunity cost, but you're able to give away $240,000 at that point. So really a great way to improve the dollars, even if you give all of it away instead of funding some of it. But great, great potential for ability to give money to your social mission. Craig, any comment on that, or I want to talk a little bit about putting this in perspective?
Yep. Just wanted to, I won't talk about returns. We're going to talk about risk and returns in a little bit, but just kind of a little bit of a summary. What Dave said and what you're chiming upon is everybody on this call is supporting their members and supporting their community, whether it's through libraries, through scholarships, teachers. And this is just a fantastic way of offsetting what you're already doing or supplementing, meaning increasing what you can do and continue on to support that social mission that we like to utilize. So it is a wonderful tool. Dave, we really appreciate you sharing your real life experiences and your successes that you're doing as an organization and individually with your membership and your community. It's just admirable.
All right. And Craig, let's put this in some perspective here, and let's talk a little bit about strategies and some of the strategies that you employ today.
Absolutely. Thank you, Charlie. Uh, when looking at any kind of asset on your balance sheet, there's a lot of different ways to manage it. And here we're talking about the investable assets of the institution. And similar to a standard portfolio where there's risk tolerances that are established through policy, governed through the board, and then followed through management's execution, you have risk tolerances that you're willing and able to take. And then you can, in this world, in the CDA, we, as mentioned earlier, the NCOA has allowed, as well as state regulators, allowed these accounts to be opened and to utilize tools that wouldn't otherwise be permissible in a regular portfolio. There's limits, of course, but so now going down the same path as a standard portfolio, an institution needs to go down to a path of establishing risk tolerances for this type of portfolio. And you can take anywhere from a very conservative portfolio where there's no marking to market, no fair value adjustments to cause swings in earnings or income statement, to a balanced approach of just a little bit if someone wants to take a little bit of risk and for the added returns, or even an aggressive approach where the entire portfolio could be a mark to market or equity-based portfolio. And it's extremely important to really talk about that at the beginning and onset of the process when establishing a charitable donation account. We can, if as we go forward in the spirit of time, I won't go through every step. We'll summarize steps to go through when establishing a charitable donation account later in the call. But this talking about perspective is account can be customized or tailored to whatever the risk tolerances are for your institution and board.
So here's a sample, Craig, put together as just a conservative portfolio. Just give us a little bit of what this is and what does it say?
Sure. And upper right-hand corner there, the word conservative. So this would be a portfolio constructed that is considered a conservative portfolio that is comprised of corporate debt, preferred stocks that are not marking to market, so they are in your available for sale and or held to maturity. Typically it's available for sale is what you would like to have it in there. And we put it in there, and this conservative portfolio is 50-50. And the reasons being is you get a look at the returns in the estimated yield column there where the corporate bonds are. Then these are kind of current market rates that we are experiencing for accounts that we are establishing today. It's just opening up and starting to deploy liquidity into them. 675 on the corporates and 7% on the preferreds as well. And for on a $10 million portfolio with those estimated returns, you get up a gross yield of about a 688 with a net yield of a 603. And then you can see that your estimated annual income on this portfolio is about $600,000. And that's about an increase to overall current net income for an institution that's, say, making $4 million a year. It's increasing your income by 15%.
Yeah, it's a really nice pickup of earnings and overall yield there. That's wonderful.
Yeah, certainly. And a lot of people do choose a conservative portfolio, even in today's environment, even though your standard investment portfolio for liquidity being deployed in a portfolio that's not CDA, somewhere in that 4 to 4.25, maybe even 4.5, or a liberal policy, but it is, you're locking in yields at this cycle, and it's ultimately a type of portfolio for someone that does not want volatility. They like the concept. I don't want to see volatility of marking to market or fair value. And Dave, you'll probably help me out here. Is it ACRS 302 or 321 or something of that nature that would require that?
I think that's a 320. Yeah.
320, ASC 320. Thank you. See, and Dave does have that accounting hat, which I love and appreciate. Yeah.
Well, that's I appreciate explaining that, and that is important, that the understand that accounting aspect of it and the effect, and then if you want to be a bit more aggressive, you've got another portfolio here.
Okay, so we're jumping from a conservative in this example to a aggressive, and then there's a middle ground and balance. We'll look at that in a moment. But as you can see on the asset classes chosen here, 100% of that same $10 million is into common stocks, which we call it common stocks. It could be a combination of things, whether it's ETFs or common stocks. Mutual funds might be in there, but really we utilize some ETFs because of the low fee structure on that type of product and still capturing market returns. And we break it off into the estimated dividend yield on the common stocks that are utilized in a portfolio, and then return potentials as based upon some metrics that are taken out of the financial markets and S&P Global. So here the average return added up is going to be approximately 9% for today's deployment. And so your net yields are about 8.15, call it 8%. So we've now got a $4 million expected net income on the income statement, goes up to 4.9, approximately 22% of income, which really does put a lot onto the bottom line to help that social mission for an institution.
Well, and as we continue forward, we're going down the three bears theory here. Too cold, too hot, and then just right, as one may say. But get it down to my level. But here we go, a balanced portfolio. This is really a great way of mitigating risk, but also enhancing return.
Yes, exactly. So really you have the top section, which is kind of that conservative, the corporate debt. And just a reminder is it doesn't matter whether you're a federal or a state. The carve out for federal credit unions is that they're very used to buying, say, bank notes, right? That's a legal investment for a federal credit union. So they're familiar with a bank note is technically a corporate bond, but now it expands it to all corporate debt that the carve out for CDAs allows you to invest in. So, and now some states do, and most do, but some do not in corporate bonds. But this slice of regulation allows you to invest in corporate bonds. The first preferred in that middle section is non-mark to market. You can see the returns are approximately 7%. And then the second 2B would be perpetual. So there's no stated final maturity date for those preferreds. A little bit more risk. It does involve marking to market requirement, just like in equities. So that's why we have those two types separated, and then common stocks. And for this balanced portfolio, we kind of just show, as for this example, 25% across all asset classes. Gives you a blended yield of a 7.5, net yield of a 665, and it increases your income from 4 million to 4.6 million, 4.7 million, which is about a 16% increase or boost to earnings. So once again, on the allocation here is really important. We don't ever want to think about this as putting a round peg into a square hole. Did I say that right? Or is it square peg into a round hole?
Round peg in a round hole, square peg. Okay, got it. Yep.
But the point here is it's going to be similar to the deliberate process for opening a CDA, opening a foundation, for formulating an investment strategy. It's a little bit of a process of identifying risk process, a Q&A process. discussion with management, presentation to the board, and understanding the various types of components that we could be exposed to, and coming down to a consensus and board approved risk tolerance that we can then determine what part of what allocation would be specific for your institution. And that's why we wanted to show these three different categories, as Charlie says, the three little bears there with the just right at the end on a balanced portfolio. Yeah.
I appreciate that, Craig. And it's important, though, that we also have to have a risk conversation. It is different. We don't want to spend much time on this, but we want to hop in and just have a little bit of conversation about risk. It's important that everyone's aware of it. And it's important if you are currently doing a CDA that you have the knowledge of the risk that you're taking, that you can appropriately talk about it to ensure that the regulators understand your knowledge.
Yep.
And so with that, I'm sorry, go ahead, Craig.
Yep. Before we roll into this, we got to, do as we always do, is do the right thing as we talk about returns, on a conservative, on a balanced, on an aggressive. Past performances are no reflection of what's going to actually happen in the future. It's just an estimate. And so by all means, we all know that, but I just want to make sure that we say that these are, what we're deploying right now. These are all estimated returns. They're not guaranteed. And now we're going to talk a little bit about some of the risk. And as I talked about the difference between aggressive and balanced to the conservative, there's some marking to market that would have to happen depending on risk tolerances and the risk reward here. So that's what's going to segue into this next section.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you bet.
All right, so we have a conservative analysis here, or the risk analysis based on the sample conservative portfolio to go through.
Okay, so as you look at this, we are basically showing a couple of things on this page, which is critical to look at. One is the estimated annual dividend and interest. And as we look at these, it's the dollar amount is the income that's expected to be derived from both the corporate bonds as well as the preferred stocks, about $600,000 there. For the scenario on this risk analysis, we use a base adjusted capital for this institution of $20 million in capital. And since this is a conservative portfolio with no fair value marking, there is no change based on any of the scenarios of a base in the market, a pullback in the market, or a correction, for example. So we really don't have any kind of change to our estimated annual income because those dividends and interest, regardless of the value of the institution, of the investments, your dividends and interest still come in the same dollar amount. So it doesn't change your adjusted net worth. Now the portfolio value, the second from the right side, you can see the portfolio values do change based on the scenarios to the far left. And that's kind of similar to our unrealized gains or losses in a standard portfolio as interest rates cycle up and down. Right now, we're obviously in that rate cycle up. And you can see based on this portfolio, the change in the portfolio value going all the way down to 12.9 or 13% and then a custom at 12 or 15%. So, and just so you have an idea, the bear market is a combination of both the stock market decline as well as interest rates spiking. So, but for this scenario, conservative, the only impact is on the interest rates rising 300 basis points, which would devalue that 12.91.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you explaining that. And that is an important thing, depending on we're using assets that are modify or not modify. And this simple one, we have assets that modify. When we get into the balanced portfolio, we're looking at investing in things that do modify our flow through the income statement effectively and do affect us. And so this is where we are going to see a change to our equity, net worth ratio, et cetera.
Yes. So in this balanced portfolio, we are looking at having a marking to market of perpetual preferreds of 25%, which is as well as common stocks of about 25%. And you can see on the difference of two things, actually. One is your estimated annual dividend interest right there is a little bit different, a little actually higher than the conservative portfolio. And the reason is, as you look at the estimated returns within the asset classes, the conservative has an average of a 750 return, which is strictly corporate and non-perpetuals. But now we look at perpetuals is 7.25. So that's going to bring up our estimated annual dividend and interest. And then we also are going to have, which brings it down a little bit, but dividend and interest on common stocks, because we do favor some value stocks, which do pay dividends and stuff. So, but ultimately it's from an income standpoint, you can see it's different by about $60,000 higher. So as you look at the scenario here, the adjusted capital does start to change in our scenarios. Right? So we have a base of the capital, again, like the conservative, of $20 million. And if we have a pullback in the market, you can see that all of a sudden our adjusted capital, because there is a marking to market, will go down about just about 1%, which affects our overall adjusted net worth ratio of 9 basis points. So it goes down from 10 to 9.91. Portfolio value drops to 9.6, which is a devaluation of approximately 3.92%. So one of the things you can really notice here is that the pullback scenario doesn't decline as much as in the conservative one. And the reason being is a pullback is not a big drop in the equity market. It's a slight drop in the equity market. And pullback is a 5% decline in equities. Whereas the pullback interest rate change and increases 100 basis points. So in this one, that 100 basis point increase, it offsets it because there's less fixed income being devalued by that much. And we get all the way down to a bear market, which is 20% decline in the stock market. The overall portfolio on this balance would be about a 3.4%, 3% devaluation, pulls down the net worth ratio by 30 basis points. And the overall total portfolio devaluation is about a 12.53%. So
yeah, it's not that bad given the type of market incident that would be.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So as you can see, there's risk rewards depending on how you can increase your earnings with a balanced portfolio than a conservative. You can see the impact. And I kind of like to think about these as what we've experienced over the last interest rate cycle. I can't even say last. How about the interest rate cycle we're in right now?
The current cycle, yes.
Yes, thank you. 400 basis point increase in less than a year, fixed income portfolios, standard portfolios devaluing anywhere from 10 to 25%. And you kind of look at this and what's happened with the stock market. It's, you got to really take into account what you think is what's going to happen, run some analysis, and that's how we determine what we're really equipped for, and really looking at your base net worth ratio of how much can we afford to put at risk for the benefit of that higher income to support our communities.
And what this shows is the bad outcomes. It doesn't show the good outcomes here. It doesn't show the positives, but that's why we're talking risk. What's the negative impact only? Lots of positive things we could put on the upward side of this, but we want to be clear that we talk about risk.
Yeah.
And really to wrap up a little bit of risk here, Craig, we've got the last page on risk here.
Yeah. So this is a really nice base talking sheet when working with clients. And it really takes going for shifts from the left side to the right as risk increases. Now, we don't have returns on this. We're just identifying a risk. So cash doesn't have the risk. It adjusts the current market rates. Cash is king, right, when you think about liquidity. And then our first bucket would be the corporate and how it behaves based on changes in interest rates. And we'll stay in a severe, like that bear market section, it's second from the bottom. Corporates are devaluing approximately 13.6%, whereas preferreds are only devaluing 11.3% on those. Those are a hybrid security. They're considered equity. They're considered fixed income. We can have that debate all along, but they do have those fixed income components on what they have with their fixed coupons that get paid quarterly. And then on the common stock, you can see it devalues more in that bear market at 13 or 14%, a little over 14, and then the average. And so this is kind of a base of putting it on one page of where's our net worth, how much are we willing to put at risk for what returns. And it's the kind of the foundation of identifying what our tolerances are.
Thank you, Craig. Really appreciate going through corporate bonds, preferred stocks, and common stocks, and the risk that is there.
Okay.
All right.
And then go ahead. Yeah, here on lastly, as we go, this goes back to one of Dave's favorite topics is fair value, your ASC 320, and what is required to be marked to market on an ongoing basis as values change. All of us on here, standard portfolios, we have unrealized losses or unrealized gains that don't flow through the income statement. So fair value measurement is identifying instruments that don't have a stated maturity, that are required to be marked to market to its current fair value, and then that change run through the income statement. And depending on this is for a balanced portfolio, shows you that if the percent, which is 50-50, you can see $500,000. If we have a bear market again, that's 300 basis points up, and the stock market being down 20%, we'd have about 14% change, which would have to run through the income statement. Of the $5 million, it would be $737,000. The non-fair value would be about $750,000, about 15%, and then the total is about a 1.4% total of just under 15% of the total $10 million.
I appreciate you going through these outcomes. Again, we always want to show the risks. There's a lot of positive outcomes again that can happen with the market going up as it hopefully always does, but doesn't always. But really important to go through that. So thank you very much, Craig. We appreciate your insight. And as we wrap stuff up here, I do think now is better than later. One of the important things is that we think about, what are some of our obstacles and where we are. There's a lot of things we can do. A lot of people talk about market timing. Is the market right? Is it wrong? A lot of people probably wish they bought on January 1st a lot of stocks as they're up 30-40% when the world was worried about them coming down. There's never the right time, never the wrong time to buy. Dollar cost averaging, buying in over a period of time, is the right thing to do. And also, it also can be considered really the right thing to do today if you're looking for locking up yield for 5, 6, 7 years. If we're looking to lock in 7% yields, things like that. Today is a great day to buy those. So it's something important. Market timing is very difficult, but averaging in, buying, and growing is really important. If it's a time issue, we'll take care of everything for you. It's something good. And I do think some people say, maybe I should think about this next year. I think the time to think about is now. I'm worried about earnings as we look at rising interest rates on deposits, and we look at maybe some loan losses coming into portfolios a year from now. It's probably a good idea to start working on growing our other sources of income today. Craig, any comments on this page?
Yeah, I wanted to just pause and talk a little bit about swap analysis. We're going through a couple of clients right now who are walking down the path of trying to determine how to properly fund this. One of which doesn't have a lot of liquidity, and they're at a spot where they don't want to use up liquidity. So what we're doing is looking at their existing traditional investment portfolio and liquidating out some specific securities and selling them at losses, and looking at the returns that we can get based on their risk tolerances, and see how long it takes that almost double interest rate of return to recoup those loss on sales. And the one that we just finished up, it's about really short. It's only like 6 months where the recoup is, depending on what the standard portfolio is. But we do look at that as an opportunity for somebody that doesn't have liquidity, but still has, hey, I really do think I could utilize this and help my earnings and help me support communities a little bit better by having a higher income. So similar to a swap analysis in a standard portfolio, we're looking at that for people with illiquidity. And then the ones with liquidity, I just absolutely love the comment of is when is the right time? And the worst thing that anybody can do, I've been in this a long time, you can tell by my gray hair, is try to time the market, right? Who's the best person to time the market? Like, I don't know. Buffett, let's just pick him out. But market timing is everybody's worst enemy, trying to do that. And Charlie, you mentioned that of dollar cost averaging in, which is a good philosophy. But as we look at the economic cycle that the US is in right now, stock market is down. It's come back quite a bit off the bottoms, but we're still overall down. And the whole theory of investing is buy low, sell high type thing. And as we look at where we're at in the cycle, high interest rates, equity markets that are lower than their all-time highs, it really is truly a good time to start looking at these very seriously and start implementing as we are experiencing, as we're deploying liquidity in new accounts as we open them.
I think that's a great point, Craig. And thinking about our next steps here, knowing what you want to do is really one of the keys. And if you're looking for current income, there's no better time than now to buy some of the fixed income securities you've talked about near 7% yields. It's a great time to create portfolios for cash flow. Make sure you understand the programs. Once we're on the path, we'll notify our regulators our intent to proceed. Make sure we have good risk discussions like we've had today, good goal discussions, determine the right size of the portfolio, make sure we have a good policy in place. And then we get the policy approved by the board, and then we open the account and start investing the dollars. So if you're interested, those are the steps we need to do. Before we wrap stuff up, Dave, I really want to thank you. Really appreciate your time being with us today. Any last comments except, thank you, Craig, for all your greatness.
Well, I'd like to thank Craig he doesn't just rush into these. We talk about market timing not being something you can perfectly plan, and the idea of making sure that you have great conversations with your management team and your board of directors about risk. We began funding our CDA account in December of 2021. And so I'm not saying that us doing that caused 2022 to happen, but I was really glad that we had thought it through, what it might look like both up and down beforehand. So that planning and the assistance that Craig and his team provided in getting that done, very valuable.
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate that. Appreciate your time today. Really insightful, amazing what you guys have done with the dollars from your CDA, the dollars that you've given to your foundation, what your foundation has done to your community. You guys are a great example of what we all should do as organizations. So thank you very much, Dave. Thank you very much, Craig, for joining me today. Really appreciate the time for both of you. You're experts, and I appreciate being surrounded by wonderful experts.
Yep, you're welcome. And thank you, Dave. We really appreciate your participation.
Thank you, Charlie.
Right. Thanks, Charlie.
Thank you, guys. And then to wrap stuff up here, thank you for attending. Our next webinar is next week on February 22nd. We're going to be talking about eBPA portfolios. And so if you'd like to get a copy of that, please reach out to your advisor. We'll send off a link. One should be emailed to everyone on this list also. But we really appreciate the time. We really appreciate the excitement and energy being with us today. And again, please join us next week to learn specifically about employee benefit pre-funding accounts. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day.